Okay, so this is a little video on how I make my twill tape clothing labels. All you need is twill tape and transfer paper. So this I either buy from Staples or Amazon, and it's just generic transfer paper for any type of fabric. I will link this in the video as well. There is one for a dark fabric, which actually prints out on white. You want the clear transfer paper, so it irons on with the clear background. So then you want to make your template on whatever program you like to use. I use Microsoft Word. You can use Illustrator, any sort of Adobe program. I start with the width of my label. So I know that the width of my twill tape is 1/2 inch, so I'm actually going to go slightly less. You can do 3/8 of an inch. And then I make the bounding box really light. So these are some old labels with a really bold line in the middle. And I actually end up slicing that off, and then I slice it off on either side. So I'm cutting too much to make it easier. I make it skinnier, and then I also make these lines, I don't know if you can see them. I make them really, really light, so I know that I can just cut right over top of them. And then I actually use an old rotary cutter to cut anything that's paper, including my pattern pieces. And then I can just go right down that line. So I've cut a few here. And the first step you do after printing it out, make sure that you're also printing it on the right side of the transfer paper. So you don't want to print on the side that has the print on it. You're printing on the blank side. So you have to make sure with your printer which way it flips the fabric first before you start printing, or which way you print the paper first. Some printers like to flip it, some don't flip it. Just make sure that you know that about your printer before you print. Another thing is your template has to be mirrored, because this is a mirrored image you're putting onto your twill tape. So if you don't mirror it, it's going to end up backwards. That's why all of my labels look backwards right now. Last tip is to make it bold. You can see an old one here that I did for my Tencel, and it's really light. It doesn't show up as nice as the bold does. Now, with your finished product that you're using these labels on, you will not be able to iron the label, and you will not be able to put it in the dryer. So just keep that in mind about what project you're putting this on. I wash every one of my products on cold, and then I just hang to dry. So with your labels printed out, the first step you're going to do is iron it right onto your twill tape. And you want to use a lot of steam and pressure, because this helps set the transfer paper right onto the twill tape. And you can use fabric scissors to cut each of the strips, because we are just cutting the twill tape. And then this is why I like my my cutting board right beside it, because I take the hot strip and then I put it right onto my cool cutting mat, and it cools it down right away. And then once it's cool enough, we're gonna peel that transfer paper away. And then every one of the transfer paper packs comes with a silicone sheet. You do not have to buy this separately. It comes in every single pack. And then the second step we're going to do is we're going to iron this paper onto the top of your print. Make sure that your print is not facing down. It's facing up towards the paper. And this helps set that sticker. It's essentially a sticker. It helps set it into the fabric even more. You don't need to use steam here as we're ironing on paper, but you do want to use a lot of pressure, especially if your iron isn't very heavy. And you can take your time here. You don't want to rush this or your sticker might end up peeling right off of your twill tape. And then we can bring it over to our cutting mat again and it'll cool down. Just keep moving it around to find another cold spot. And then we're going to peel those off. Now our final step is to iron them right onto your ironing board. And you can use just a scrap of muslin instead if you don't want to iron it right onto your board. It doesn't get any residue on it. And using tons of steam. All right, and I've already prepped these ones from earlier. So you want to make sure that they've completely cooled, because if you pull them off too early, sometimes the sticker might come off of it. And that's the final step. And then I have my little faint lines showing me how long my tag is, so that I can just clip those. And then you can sew them right into your garment, just like that. So if you do have to iron your garment, just make sure that you're going around it and make sure that you do not put this in a hot dryer.